Good afternoon, everyone. The July 31st, 2025 public hearing is called to order at 2:01. Council would like to acknowledge the Ucluelethat on whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube and Zoom, which may store data on foreign servers. Are there any late items? No. May I have a motion to adopt the July 31st, 2025 public hearing agenda as presented?
So moved.
Councillor Hoare.
Second.
Councillor Mafty. All in favor? None opposed. That carries. Rules governing public hearing. As provided for in the Local Government Act, the Council is required to hold a public hearing before adopting an official community plan bylaw, zoning bylaw, or amendments thereto. At a public hearing, all persons who deem their interest in property affected by the proposed bylaws shall be afforded an opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions on matters contained in the bylaw. The Council may give such effect as it deems fit to representations made at a public hearing in the bylaws as adopted. At a public hearing, the Council is under no obligation to enter into a debate on any issue. The purpose of a hearing is to hear public input, which will later be considered by the Council in their regular meeting. Following the public hearing, Council will not accept further communications or presentations from the public or the applicant respecting this bylaw. Pursuant to Section 464 and 466 of the Local Government Act, notice was given by district staff that a public hearing was to be held at 2 p.m. on July 31st, 2025. We will now conduct a public hearing on District of Ucluelet Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw Number 1366-2024, District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw Number 1367-2024, and District of Ucluelet Housing Agreement Bylaw Number 1368-2024. These bylaws are related to the property at 221 Minato Road. As provided for in the Local Government Act, Council is required to hold
Through Mayor to Council, maybe there is an older version of it. This public hearing is only for OCP and the zoning bylaw, not the housing bylaw. Thank
we
you.
did the housing bylaw on Tuesday. Okay, so it will be, I'll just repeat that. We will now conduct a public hearing on District of Ucluelet Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw Number 1366-2024 and District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw Number 1367-2024. These bylaws are related to the property at 221 Minato Road. As provided for in the Local Government Act, Council is required to hold a public hearing before adopting a zoning bylaw, an official community plan bylaw, or amendments thereto, unless a public hearing is prohibited by the Local Government Act or waived by Council in accordance with that Act. At the conclusion of this hearing, it will be closed. Once the public hearing is closed, Council cannot accept further communications or presentations from the applicant or public respecting the proposed bylaws unless Council decides to hold an additional public hearing. Please note there will be no decisions made during this hearing, and Council is under no obligation to enter into debate on any issue. Council will consider the bylaws at an upcoming Council meeting later this evening. The purpose of this hearing is to hear from the public before third reading of the bylaws. Council may consider amending the proposed bylaws based on input received at this public hearing. At a public hearing, all persons who deem their interest in the property affected by the proposed bylaws will be given an opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions on matters contained in the bylaws. However, all who speak must restrict their comments to the subject bylaws, and it is my responsibility to ensure that all remarks are so restricted. You will have 5 minutes to address Council for the first time. Staff will advise you at the 4-minute mark and when your time is up. After everyone has spoken once, those wishing to speak again will have an opportunity. After hearing submissions from members of the public, council may ask questions to clarify what has been said. However, this is not a Q&A session or a town hall meeting. To maintain an atmosphere that is respectful of all points of view, it is important for the audience to refrain from applauding or cheering or booing for speakers. Today, members of the public can participate in person or electronically. All speakers must state their name and address. I will now ask the clerk to further detail how the public may participate in this public hearing.
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. All related materials, including the subject bylaws, are available for review on the back table and on the district's website. The public can participate in this hearing in person, by phone, by Zoom, or by emailing communityinput@ucluelet.ca. To speak in person, raise your hand when the mayor calls for in-person speakers. The mayor will call on you when it is your turn. Please speak from the mic at the podium. To speak by Zoom, click the raise hand icon when the mayor calls for speakers via Zoom. When it is your turn, I will call on you by your Zoom name, so please ensure it is your first and last name. To speak by phone, press 9 when the mayor calls for speakers calling in. When it's your turn, the clerk will call on you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. Press 6 to unmute yourself. Any unpublished emails about the subject bylaws received at communityinput@ucluelet.ca before the end of the public hearing will be read into the record. Please put the bylaw numbers in the subject line and keep your emails short. Published correspondence will not be read. For further details about how to participate by Zoom, telephone, or email, please visit ucluelet.ca/public hearings. Thank you.
Thank you. I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1366, 2024, and District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1367, 2024, open. The CAO will now provide a brief overview of these bylaws. After the CAO speaks, the applicant will have an opportunity to address council, after which I will call 3 times for public input. Does council have any questions for staff at this point? No.
Thank you, Mayor.
Mr. Harding?
I'm going to quickly turn this over to Mr. Brown, who's been assisting the district with some planning support over the last number of months. What I will just say is that council and the community did have a robust public hearing back in January on this file, as well as it did receive 3rd reading. In April, in some discussions both with the proponent, the applicant, and council, we thought it best to, with some procedural concerns, come back and rescind 3rd, which council did, and then work with the applicant to bring back the application as you see now, with a few changes and a lot more clarity on some certain aspects. And with that, I'll turn over to Mr. Brown, who can outline some of those changes.
Thank you, Richard. Mayor and Council, I will be looking down at my notes as if you've gone through your agenda package. It's complex information and there's a lot of it, so I do want to get it right for you. So the OCP Amendment Bylaw 1366/2024 and the Zoning Amendment Bylaw 1367/2024. Their amendment bylaws required to incorporate changes into the CD6 zone of Ucluelet's zoning bylaw, which is the zoning for the property at 221 Minato Road. As Mr. Harding highlighted, changes were initially made and granted 3rd reading. However, some additional changes were made. I've highlighted them for you previously, but I'll do so here for your sake and the public hearing's sake as well. The changes requested to date result in an increase of housing units and also greater allowance for short-term rentals. The proposal divides the lots into development areas with uses and densities assigned to each development area. Ms. Pelchek, could you please put the image on the screen? So the development areas essentially define the uses and also the max density for portions of the zone. I can just wait till it gets up here. That was the one, yes. So lot 1, can zoom in a little bit, that would be ideal, but if not, that's okay. Thank you. Lot 1 is the principal uses permitted are multifamily residential with a max number of buildings of 18 with up to 75 principal units and up to 36 potential suites. Lot 2 is rental multifamily with a max density of 16 and the max of principal dwelling, or sorry, max building density of 16 and max number of principal dwelling units, also with provisions for suites. The proponent is proposing something fairly unique with some of these units in the sense that they can be 3-bedroom units or also modified to be 2 bedrooms with suites. That is the zoning attempts to account for some of that variation. Lot 3, which is the dark blue, is single-family waterfront with a max density of 11 buildings and 11 units. Lot 4 is in the orange in the corner there, which is retail, a small portion of the property for retail trades and services. And finally, Lot 5, the light blue, which is surrounded by the darker blue, that would be multifamily residential as the principal use. The proposed changes to the zone result in a maximum density for principal dwellings of 207 units with a possible 99 secondary suites. The applicant also did request revisions to the short-term rental and parcel coverage floor area rate precisions of the original bylaw. This was a request for a reallocation of the short-term rental provisions from Lot 5 to a portion of Lot 1, which we went through more fully recently. And this aligns the land use so that the priority of attainable sales on Lot 5 and the short-term rentals being in a later phase on Lot 1, Part 2. Originally, the short-term rental use was restricted to 29 dwelling units, but the request has been to increase that to 46 in the new Lot 1, Part 2 location. There is a request to change the maximum height provision from 11.5 meters to 12.0 meters for the retail component, and that's that Lot 4, the orange in the bottom right corner. As a condition of the land use bylaw approval, the applicant is required to register a Section 219 covenant on the property title, requiring a housing agreement for attainable housing and attainable rentals. It ensures setbacks and also a flood indemnity covenant before the land can be developed. Council previously directed district staff to work with the proponent to refine the covenant, which has been ongoing, and recent negotiations have resulted in sections of the housing agreement being clarified and provisions in the covenant ensuring that the attainable units in the housing agreement are built prior to market housing components. Specifically, that the Phase A attainable homes on proposed Lot 5, that's the light blue, would be built prior to any subsequent phases, and only 4 of the waterfront homes in Phase 1 being granted occupancy prior to the 46 attainable houses receiving occupancy in Phase A. Further, Phase B, Lot 2, Part 1, the affordable attainable rentals, will be built, 39 units, prior to Lot 1, Part 2 market condos. Any amendment to the phasing sought by the developer would be at the discretion of council. The public hearing package contains all the related documents, and I apologize, but there is a lot of them, and reports submitted to date, including written correspondence from the previous public hearing, as well as additional correspondence since the publishing of the public hearing, which also includes an updated referral response from Ucluelet First Nation. Thank you, Mayor and Council.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Any questions from council? All right, we are now moving on to the applicant presentation section of this public hearing. Would the applicant like to address council? Mr. Hunt, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'll just share my screen. Okay, fantastic. Nice to be with you. A couple of days ago, I had to dial in from further abroad, but it's lovely to be back. I guess we're going to have a quick look at the development. Fundamentally, it hasn't changed from our last public hearing. There are no more buildings, no more apartments, no sort of changing of their position. It's all pretty much remaining as it was. But there has been a couple of modifications, and I want to explain to you the reasons why those modifications have come about and the benefits of them. I think, firstly, I'd like to say that it's been a bit over a year since we first met with Mayor and Council in the beautiful Ucluelet. Since then, we've relocated and been living here since late last year. It's also fantastic that numbers of my key management staff have also relocated and their families to Ucluelet, and even some of my own direct family members have relocated to Ucluelet. And we love living here and being a part of the community. I think it's also important to say the premise in which we came to town was not to be a property developer. From the very first meeting was not to be a property developer. We don't want to be a property developer, more a housing provider. And I want to bring you up to speed on where that process is at, and there's a lot of exciting updates on where we are there. That said, we needed to work with Mayor and Council in regards to finding an adequate place to help be a solution to the housing challenges of Ucluelet, which are not exclusive to Ucluelet. We'd like to point out there are just about every municipality around Canada today is facing challenges around housing and the cost of housing, and working together to try and sort through some of those issues. That said, it's been quite a hard journey, a lot of red tape, probably more red tape than I had have initially imagined. It's taken longer than I certainly would have imagined, but I feel optimistic today in regards to our trajectory and momentum with Mayor and Council and the staff that we've been working with. So let me bring you up to speed on where some of the things are at. And I think it's an important part of the discussion to bring this into play, because a few years ago we patented a new construction technology that we plan to be building at 221 Monarto. We have a global patent on this technology, and since then we've now acquired this construction facility at Port Alberni that talks directly to how we're going to deliver 221 Monarto. And so what I thought I'd do is I'd just share with you very quickly. There's a video here of about 2 minutes that also talks about the construction methodology and what we're actually doing.
Sold to IGV Housing.
We're excited to be in Port Alberni, and what we're building in Port Alberni is a hybrid construction methodology to actually help build homes more affordably. Our construction methodology is two different types of construction. Number one is we build a central smart core. Inside that central smart core, there is your kitchens, your bathrooms, your electrical, your HVAC, just basically all of the smarts of your house. And then what we do is we build volumetrically around that. The beauty about that is you end up with a home that is beautifully spacious, got all of the mod cons, we've got beautiful fixtures and fittings, but you don't feel like you're in a pre-manufactured home. It's just that we have the same type of end product, but we've delivered it in a factory style of environment that delivers a fast and efficient outcome in regards to cost and time savings on site.
The Smart Core and the Precision Built patented technology, which will...
I think we'll leave that there. Sorry about that little echo. And if those people are listening online, I'm sure that echo was a lot worse. But the reason I thought that was important is just so that you can see how committed we are to this type of manufacturing process. We've invested a lot of money to build a manufacturing or to buy a manufacturing facility in Port Alberni. We are very progressed, even with what we are expecting to do here in Ucluelet. Like, for instance, I could take you tomorrow to that manufacturing facility and show you hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of equipment that's been pre-purchased for the purpose of building this project. And so we are very committed to Ucluelet and the 221 Monarto project. And I wanted just to bring you up to speed, because some people are saying, well, what's the reality of all of this? Well, it's real. And in fact, there has been so much demand in the construction technology that both the federal and provincial governments are very excited about it. And there is a lot of other municipalities that are sort of lined up behind us to sort of say, we would like you to do that here. And so, but this is where we are, and this is what we want to do. So let me unfold a little bit in regards to some of the changes and why some of the changes have happened and why Tyler and the team have had to implement those changes. You can see on the left-hand side here is what the previous OCP application was in regards to where the tourist commercial was up on the top right-hand side in green. In yellow, pink here, and then in the orange here was the multifamily. Over to the right-hand side here, you can see that it's been split up. There's no more or no less in any particular area. It's just simply been repositioned. And so the question might be, well, why have you repositioned that? Well, the reason is quite simply put in this illustration. On the second image, right down the bottom here, this is a cross section going across this section here, where you can see the waterfront homes here, and then this is lot 5. And if you just simply look at that little section there, you can see that's the height of the retaining wall that is going to be lift up lot 5. You can see the first 2 buildings here on lot 5 actually aren't even on fill, but this last one down here. So what that does, that enables us to be starting to build while we're building the retaining walls, and it means that we can get the houses completed much sooner and into the community's hands where they need to be. The middle illustration here is the cross section of the retaining wall and the fill that's required on lot 1. Now that fill and that retaining wall is because of the tsunami reports that have had to be done and the site being lifted to 10.7 meters. But that retaining wall and that fill is quite substantial and costing a lot of money. And so what we've done is we've actually moved the market housing to the more expensive part of the project to build. Why build the most expensive part first, where you actually don't generate any money, because the attainable and the affordable home ownership and rental section is being built by the EREV not-for-profit housing association, which simply doesn't make any profit. And so that's been the purpose of shuffling where it is, because we can build lot 5 faster and more efficiently. And that's why we've simply said, well, it makes more sense. Let's build lot 5 first before we start building lot 1, because it can be done so more efficiently. The other question that's been asked, and I'm happy to answer any questions or to create any clarification that may be needed, but was around the phasing. And Tyler looked at it just then, but let me just sort of quickly go over it again. We've got phase 1 being lot 5 and lot 3 together. So that is the waterfront homes, the 2 blue sections. That is 4 of the waterfront homes, so we're not building that out entirely, and it's in conjunction with lot 5. Those 2 things are linked together. Now, the purpose of linking those together is because there are some shared services that go into both of those areas, and the lot 3 area helps to subsidize lot 5 in regards to some of those infrastructure costs. So just building lot 5 entirely before you build lot 3 would make it very adversely challenging from a financial point of view of trying to cash flow that thing through. So that's phase A. Phase B is lot 2 and the first stage of lot 1. So lot 2 is the light green section, which is the affordable and attainable rental section. So I think it's important to understand, because there's been a question raised about the pre-approval of the CMHC funding required to actually build lot 2. It's thrown around a lot in council chambers, and it may go over your head. And let me help you understand some of this terminology. And what gets thrown around is this term shovel ready. When you start to get the government involved in any type of funding, grants or funding, they want to have the project shovel ready. So if the municipality wanted to do a development and wanted to actually get funding, the same question would be asked is it shovel ready? Shovel ready means that the approvals have got to be fully done before they will give you an approval. In other words, you can't go to CMHC or any of the other grant providers and say, hey, we would like to build this, if it's not shovel ready. And that shovel ready means that you've got to have all of the approvals in place. So we've had a lot of conversation with CMHC about the funding of Lot 2, but they can't proceed any further until there's actually a DP, because it's not until you get a DP do you fall under the classification of being shovel ready. So we can't proceed any further with the funding on Lot 2 until we have the DP and it's been approved by council, and so that then falls into the classification of being shovel ready. So what we didn't want to do, because they're a government department, they take some time. The funding for Lot 5 and Lot 3 is in place, and it may take another 3, 4, 5 months before, after you get the DP, for the CMHC guys to say, yes, it's now shovel ready, we can proceed with the application, and now we can get that funded. So that's the reason why the affordable and attainable rental sections of Lot 2 doesn't fall into the same initial start category as Phase A, and that is because we simply didn't want to delay the deliverable of attainable home ownership to the community waiting for the government to get their act together in regards to the funding of the affordable and attainable rental. So that is Phase 2. Phase C, or Phase 3, is the second stage of affordable rentals, as well as then the market condos come into it. And the final phase is Phase D, which is the commercial down on the corner. Some people might say, this is a big development for Ucluelet. Well, the good news is we're not building it all at once. It can, as market demands, like for instance in the attainable home ownership section, you can only get finance for that on the pre-sales that, in other words, the market demand is there to say, yes, we want to buy those. And so it will unfold as the market demand is there to actually take those apartments on. Now, that market demand is going to be restricted by what's actually in our housing agreement and who can actually buy them. So in other words, our housing agreement does not allow us to say, okay, we'll give the locals a month, and then after that, we're just going to go and sell them to offshore investors. Well, that's not possible. ERIF is committed and signed the housing agreement that basically states that for 20 years, we are limited to being able to sell these under the attainable home ownership definition. So it's not like it's a short-term thing and now all of a sudden you can short-circuit it. It's all been in place that's how it's going to unfold. The second part is let's just have a bit of a look at these different phases and what it actually means. So Lot 5 and Lot 1 Part 1 is 75 below market housing, or we call this attainable home ownership. Lot 2 is 107 attainable affordable rental condos. Now, Tyler laid out some of our design methodology in regards to, and it creates some confusion between a 2-bedroom and a 3-bedroom. And let me just try and add some clarity to that. We've designed purposefully our 3 bedrooms to have a self-contained suite. The reason is we call them a mortgage helper. And as most people in Ucluelet know, that mortgage helpers actually help a lot of locals survive in Ucluelet. And we didn't want this to be any different. And so in the total number, they've actually counted the 3 bedrooms as a 2-bedroom plus an additional suite. So there's not actually 228 apartments. A lot of those are actually 3 bedrooms with an additional suite added together to get to our total number. So sometimes those numbers scare people to say, wow, that's a lot. Well, the truth is it's probably not as many as you think, purely because of the way that we've designed those. And the purpose behind that is to be multi-generational. If you wanted to live with your parents or teenagers retreat, that you've got the ability to do that. Or it helps people in regards to mortgage helpers, because they can actually help subsidise their mortgage by having their 3-bedroom or their 3rd bedroom operate as a self-contained suite. Now, that self-contained suite can't be a short-term rental. Under the housing agreement, that short-term suite has to be rented to a local based under the same terms and conditions as they purchased the apartment. So that gives you a little bit of a definition of what those two subdivisions are, the attainable and affordable rentals across Lot 2, as well as the below market housing and Lot 5 and Lot 1, Part 1. You can see there a picture of the site. Nothing has changed on the site in the last year. There's been a lot of clearing previously done, which is the reason we thought that it was such a good site to start with, that it's, how can I put this not in degrading terms, but it has been cleared that people weren't very happy with. And so anyway, it's a good thing to fix up, because after we go through and do a development, there's been a very extensive landscaping plan and we re-beautify the area. So I think that that's really positive. So where are we? Since the last public hearing, there has been a couple of additions. This hasn't changed. 35% of the overall site is dedicated as parkland. That includes a 30-metre protection buffer from the shoreline, as well as setbacks from the central section that's been given back to council. Environmental impact assessment. There's been 3 environmental reports being done. There was still more questions around the environmental, so we've had the environmental guys come back out, and since we last spoken, his report has been increased from 70 to 120 pages, including a comprehensive biophysical map assessment. Then, just to add more layers to that, we've then had his report to be peer reviewed, just to make sure that everybody's clear. We've had reports on top of reports, and then had the reports peer reviewed to make sure there's no confusion. And there was questions about wetlands. There's absolutely no wetlands on the site, as confirmed by the increased QEP report and by the peer review, that I think that we can be clear in regards to what's happening. There are 33 environmental recommendations, which is a fairly standard thing, not necessarily the number, but as you go through construction, that you work with the qualified environmental professional to ensure that when you're developing, you're doing it in such a way that you don't ruin the environment, and so they will be implemented as a part of the approval process. In addition to that, the landscape plan has now also been concluded, and so that's been a bit of an update since we last met. The tree protection plan, there were some questions about clearing. We've had arborists and the QEPs out to ensure that the clearing maps that we've provided are accurate, and that the tree clearing is as outlined in the designs. This is a bit, and it's all in your packs. There's details of the landscape architecture design, and I think that it's going to look quite spectacular. The 2 types of houses, and I just wanted to touch on a point here where we talk about the attainable or below market home ownership. What's important to realise is, as a company, this is what drives us. There's as important as having affordable and attainable rentals for a community is, that is important, but what drives us is helping people achieve home ownership. And the reason is because it's important to have somewhere to live. Tick, number 1. More importantly to that for us is helping people move into home ownership. We want to try and be responsible, and that's where I shared the IGV, and the reason that we've gone into the construction methodology is we are determined as a company to help drive down the cost of construction and actually deliver attainable home ownership for people. Achieving home ownership for people these days normally falls into two challenges. Those two challenges is, number one, cash flow. Can you afford to pay for it on an ongoing basis? Can you afford to pay a mortgage? The second hurdle for people entering into home ownership is whether they can afford the cash proportion or the equity required from the bank to actually get into home ownership. And they're normally the two biggest problems that people face when getting into home ownership. And so we as a company, what are we going to do to try and help that process along? And the thing is, Mayor and Council are aware that there are currently 0 government subsidies to try and help bring down the affordability to help people get into home ownership. Where the subsidies lie is delivering affordable and attainable rentals, but not into home ownership. And we think that the community members of Ucluelet and people in general deserve an opportunity to be homeowners, both for them and their future generations. And we see the gap widening and things getting harder and harder. So what do we do about trying to deliver these two things? Well, we can't get people jobs. That's their own responsibility. But we can try and make houses more affordable so that their mortgages are not massive. And that's where we went into, and we patented this design technology and investing a lot of money into trying to deliver houses more affordably. And we believe that we are going to do that. We also set up the ERIF Housing Association so that developments like this can be done without the standard development margin, which just simply adds more cost to the project. So this project is being done by ERIF Housing Association, and there is no development margin placed on there as it passes those savings on to the end user. So that's what we do about the first part, about people's mortgages not being too high. The second thing that we have is, how do people get the equity or cash component to be able to get into a home? Well, we've developed something called the Investor Partnership Program. And this is important, and Councillor Matthew was talking about the 5-year period in the housing agreement that these people need to live under the restriction of not being able to sell to the wider market. One of the reasons why it's important is the Investor Partnership Program. What we want to do is we want to help people that may not be able to come up with the equity required to actually build a home. If I take a quick snapshot across 2 slides, what's important for us to see here is the price that we're selling these properties for. You can see the 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments here have got a comparable sales value of $639,000. They have an appraised value of $457,000. The attainable market cap, which really doesn't mean anything as far as we're concerned, but our target sale price for that apartment is $375,000. Now, a lot of people might say, oh, that's too expensive. Well, the thing is, there are no government assistance. You've got to make the math, and that's why we've had to take on a larger development than what we would have liked to try and bring the costs down to deliver this. But what you can see there is that the 1-bedroom, 1-bathroom apartments are about 41% below market value. When you look at the 2-bedroom, 2-bathroom, the comparable's about $817, and the appraised value is $662, and our sale price is $542,000, about 33% below market. Our 3-bedrooms about 32% below market as well. So what that does, and the reason I wanted to highlight that today, is because what we have to do is, how do you get people into a house that don't have the deposit? How can we help the next generation, or people that are struggling out there to continue to meet the rising cost of living and can't get their money, can't get a saving together? How do we get them into a home? Well, what we've done is we've developed this investor partnership program where we can have an investor come and partner with a new home buyer to actually come up with the cash equity required that the bank need to actually finance. Now, the only way an investor would be prepared to do that is if they can be assured, how do I make sure as the investor that I'm not going to lose the money? Well, the truth is the total amount of money required to actually buy this property is 30 to 40% below market value. So what we're convincing the investors is that's all of the equity that you need because we're actually buying it below the appraised value. That then gives that investor partner the confidence to put in some cash on a partnership basis with the new purchaser so that they can actually then get in and buy that home. So when does the investor get out? Because our plan is not to make investors rich. Our plan is that we give people home ownership. Well, the investor exits at the 5-year period. That's the plan. The plan is that this investor may partner with this person for a 5-year period, and then at the end of the 5-year period, that purchaser can refinance their property and pay the investor out the equity that they put into their home. So that's the strategy that we're implementing, not only here in Ucluelet, but basically across Canada, to say we want to help people get into home ownership. We can't help them with the job. That's your responsibility. But how can we help try and drive the cost of housing down? Well, we do that with our construction methodology. How do we help people try and get the equity required? That's our investor partnership program. And so I just wanted to point out that that is the reason that we push so hard to actually have a limited time frames, because we don't want incoming purchasers to be disadvantaged by, well, what happens if I can't have equity, if I don't have the equity? Well, we want to be able to help them with that as well. And so over the next coming months, we're going to have some seminars to help local people that think, how could I possibly get into the housing market? And we're going to be running some programs to actually show you this is how it could work, and this is how you too could be a homeowner. And I think it's fantastic on behalf of, I certainly met with Marilyn Mayor quite a number of times in regards to how can we strategize together to actually help reward local people that invest into their community, become homeowners and live well in a place like Ucluelet where the cost of living has spiraled out of control for most. So I think that's about me. I think we've talked about what they are, the affordable, below market, and then the attainable. The other thing that I was just going to point out is, what about the rentals? Well, the rentals, a portion of it is affordable, the other portion is attainable. And just so that you can, we've also done a little graph here in regards to comparable rentals of 1 bedroom, 1 bathrooms in Ucluelet for this type of apartment range from about $1,500 to $2,000. The appraisal rental is about $1,900. The market cap would be $1,986. Our target rent for these is $1,400. But then there is a section of them that is subsidised by the government under CMHC affordable rentals, and those rentals for the 1 bedroom, 1 bathroom are $788 a month. The 2 bedroom, 2 bathrooms, the appraisal is about $2,500. Our target rent is $1,900, and there was a number of those that will be discounted down to about $1,112 a month based on the CMHC subsidies to help make those properties more affordable. So that gives you a bit of a summary of the below market housing and the rental condos. And that's all I have for you today. If there's any questions, I'm happy to answer those now or later, whatever you prefer.
Thank you, Mr. Hunt. I did have a quick question on that last slide. The CMHC is only an option for the 1 and 2 bedrooms, not the 3 bedroom.
That is a challenging question. And the reason it's challenging is because CMHC gives subsidies per door. And so by dividing the 3 bedrooms up into a 2 and a 1, it actually then creates twice the subsidy as what you would on a 3 bedroom, which enables you to deliver more of the apartments affordably than if you call them all 3. So we plan to offer some 3s, but they will be offered as a 2 and a 1 together.
Great, thank you. Questions for Mr. Hunt? No, that was a great presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we are now moving on to the public input section of the public hearing. This is the first call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to address the bylaws? Please raise your hand. Yes, please go to the podium.
Oh, sorry. It's a new one. We've been doing this so long that you got new mics. It's crazy. Yeah, Chris Bosman, 847 Lauren White Place. Full disclosure, I can probably put the title of I'm the one who started this project 4.5 years ago on my head. I'm not going to stand here and tell you it is the perfect project. I don't think that exists. I've been doing construction management for 20 years. Still haven't seen it. This is a really good project. This has taken 4.5 years to get to today. If today is successful, I would be surprised if we saw an excavator on that property before the end of the year. That means we're coming up 5 years before you start construction. It's going to take about a year, probably until someone gets a set of keys. If this project doesn't go forward, you're looking at another 6 years if someone started today to bring any form of affordable housing to this community. And I'm not trying to push any agenda. I am giving you a completely open, honest opinion as a contractor, as a builder, and a carpenter. If this council's agenda is to push affordable housing, if this community cares about affordable housing, this is the option that is presented today. This is the option that's on the table. And this is the option to get people in homes that they need in a reasonable time frame. So I support this project, and that's that.
Thank you, Chris. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to address the bylaws? Yes, Natasha.
Mayor and Council. My name is Natasha Barnard and I live in the Ucluelet campground currently. I'm speaking today in support of this project, and mine is a very personal, mine's just very personal. I'm the daycare director for the Ucluelet Area Childcare Society, and I currently run 3 sites in Ucluelet with a potential another one. But that's very new news, so I'm not going to say any more about that. I've lived in my situation is it's very personal, and that's what's brought me here today. I'm 58 years old. I don't have a property, and I live in a trailer, and I've lived in a trailer for the last 6 years because that's all I can afford in the area. I'm getting older. Living in a trailer is often difficult. I have to actually climb on my side table to get up onto my bed because it's really high, and I'm just getting tired. I have a really busy job, and I'd just like to go home in the evening and have a proper home to go to rather than have to open my sewer pipe all the time and all things that go with living outside, in this kind of trailer living, which is great, but I've done it for quite some time. So I'm forced into the position of when I met Arif, and this all started about a year ago, it was literally like, wow, I could actually have somewhere permanent to call home for the first time since I've been in Ucluelet. So, and I've attended most council meetings since whenever I've been here, because they've given me real hope that I can get something affordable. I'm single, I don't have savings, and so this is really like my last pitched effort to get somewhere so you can be my actual permanent home. And it's really silly, but I want a proper toilet to sit on because my RV toilet really bothers me. So anyway, that's my plea. I really am running out of time because it's getting to the point where I'm going to leave because I can't do it for much longer. So, and that would leave the community in a real pickle where it comes to daycare, because I have actually quite proud of my efforts in that department, and I serve a lot of parents in the community. So that's just my plea, really. If this could go ahead, then my dreams could come true, and I would have somewhere more stable to go home to. Thanks.
Thank you, Natasha. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to address the bylaws? Yes, Laura.
Hello, Mayor and Council. My name is Laura Griffith Cochran, 1357 Pine Road, and I'm also the manager of the Ucluelet Aquarium. I'm really excited about the opportunity for affordable and attainable housing. I have a wonderful team, and I can't run the aquarium without them, and we need housing that supports them. I'm also one of the parents that Natasha supports. She does so much for us. And there's 2 other parents that work with us that would not get to work with if we didn't have good daycare. I have a couple of concerns that I want to bring up. And one is there's in the covenant of whether or not in order to be able to move forward with their project, they get to build lot 1 or lot 2, and then the rest of the land is released. Because I've lived in Ucluelet for a while, I'm nervous. We haven't always had full follow through from developers. I've had the opportunity to meet and talk with Jody, and I think that it sounds like there's some really great potential here. But I'm nervous about what things are in place to protect us if things change. And then the other part that I wanted to bring up is buffer zones for trees, so that we have the wildlife that makes this place so special, and so that we keep those spaces that all of us gravitate to when we come out here. And then when there was the discussion about investor supporting people getting into homes, it does bring up some warning bells to me about how those decisions for how investors are rewarded and by what amount is decided. I haven't read anything about that yet, but how are we protecting the people that are buying these homes so that everything is above board and really careful? So I have some caution in my mind, just because I have seen a few developments come this way and then not deliver in the way that they were supposed to. And I also have so much hope and optimism that this is going to be what we really need for all the people that are making this community wonderful. So thank you very much for having the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Laura.
I realize this is a public hearing and this isn't a rebuttal, but I know a lot of people in the community have the same question that Laura did about the phasing. I know I had that question, and I've been going back and forth, and I'm just wondering if it would be worth a minute of our time to just get that slide back up on the screen, just so that we can reiterate the phasing and the sort of conditional sequence of the phasing.
Same one, so I can work with it. Thanks, Mr. Hunt. Just through your worship to the councillor, just so I understand, just looking for clarity on the phasing with respect to the security of the potential affordable units in relation to the overall development.
Yeah, really, I think it's the information highlighted in red.
Yes, okay. So the through negotiations with the development proponent, I'm just going to pull up my notes here as I speak. Obviously, the developer has been alive to the conversations occurring at the council table and in the community, and we've discussed that with them, and they have agreed to. So the phasing, phase A would include the. Now, I apologize for anyone that suffers from color blindness here. So, the top portion of the parcels, there's a dark blue and a light blue, and it says phase A. The first is lot 3. Those are market homes on the waterfront. The next portion, the phase A, lot 5. Trying to keep all my numbers here straight and letters. That would be the attainable home ownership. The development proponent has agreed within the covenant to structure it so that no more than 4 of the waterfront homes could be built before the rest of the attainable homes on lot 3, that light blue portion, sorry, lot 5, that light blue portion would be built. So that would be 46 units. And Mr. Hunt provided the rationale there for that. The financials to flow through to be able to support that. The next phase, or the phase B, the developer has also agreed that the affordable rentals would be the key component of that phase and proceed before anything else. So this would be covenanted to structure that there's it wouldn't just unlock all the market units at once, and that those could just be built at once and sold off without any of the affordable units. It would be structured through the covenant so that a portion of those first 4 market homes on the waterfront could be built, and then from there the attainable homes, a certain portion of those need to be built, which is the lot 5, and then phase 2 can't commence until that is done, and phase B would commence, and that would include the rental portion and the attainable rental portion. So that would be secured in the covenant.
Thank you for reiterating that, Mr. Brown. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to address the bylaws? Okay, please.
Hello, I'm Nukaya Hatherley, 1211 Eber Road. For context, I live at home with family. So does my partner, because we can't find housing. So I love the idea of affordable housing. Sounds great in practice. The attainable stuff I know is not going to benefit me. It's not going to benefit anyone in my age bracket, not going to benefit the kids I went to school with who have to move away to find somewhere to live. I'm really concerned about that 5-year time frame where those attainable homes stay attainable for, and then post that they are sold at market value by. Am I correct on that? That seems concerning to me.
I don't think you're correct on that.
Sorry, I know this is not a Q&A, but
through the mayor, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Hunt, the homes from the time that they're listed for the first time can only be sold at below market value for a period of 20 years.
But the first owner
after 5 years from the date of purchase, if they choose to sell that home, can sell it at market value.
So what's stopping someone who has lived here for 12 months, because I know that's in that credible persons, qualified persons, come in, own that property for 5 years, and then flip it?
We went over all this on Tuesday, actually. So
yeah, and I'm still okay. Fair enough.
This isn't supposed to be a Q&A, but
that's fair.
But thank you for your comments, and and you obviously have that concern, and
Yeah.
I would encourage you to speak to the developer after the break.
Sure. And then I just wanted to voice too that, say, my partner's First Nations. I haven't personally seen much support from other First Nations people about this project, and I just wanted to voice that for them. But that's just my world.
I believe there is also part of the housing agreement stipulates that there are five
Yeah.
available for
And
Ucluelet.
those are the attainable homes. Yeah. I personally, yeah, again, I just don't know many people in my age bracket that are ever going to get there. So it's just not for me, but I do want affordable homes, but this doesn't look like it's going to be. And I understand there's 33 of the apartments that are actually going to be affordable. Because I think it's 30% of that for me feels low, but maybe that's just me. Thank you.
Thanks, Nakaya. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to address the bylaws? Did I see a hand, Barb?
Barbara Schramm, 1958 Bay Street. I would just like to question why we need tourism commercial zoning in the OCP if the intent of this property is for residential. I don't understand the need for that that zoning if the long-range plan is just residential. Seems to me there could be mission creep downstream that says, well, it's already zoned tourist commercial, we want this all vacation rental, or something that the community isn't being sold today. So that's one of my concerns. And the other concern is the protection of the mudflats. I would just like to see some sort of fencing and setback from the park space to protect landfill from washing into the mudflats, and very careful thought about this incredible density, the access to the waterfront. That's a big concern of mine. So I would like to see very careful planning around not having so much of this turn into nightly rental, potentially, where they don't know the rules and they're out on the mudflats. So a border trail with fencing and education would be my suggestion for that. But I don't understand the tourist commercial. I'd like to hear an answer on that.
Thanks, Barb. We did get the Well Pacific Trail letter this afternoon, so we saw your concerns about the mudflats, and we have had discussions about that and whether there should even be a trail anywhere near that. So yeah, and I believe the covenant does address the number of short-term rentals that can possibly be put in there, so there is some protection. Are there any other members of the public attending in person who wish to address the bylaws? Seeing none, are there any speakers on Zoom?
Mayor McEwen, we have one member of the public that would like to speak. I will unmute their mic through the chair.
Thank you.
Chantal, you are now allowed to speak.
Hi, my name is Chantal Gamel. I reside at 1657 Bay Street. I definitely am all for affordable housing. I would love to see the water tower project go. But for this, I do have some concerns. I did put my question up for questions for Mr. Hunt, but nobody saw my hand, I guess, because I was wondering what his patent number was for this patentable product, because I've looked it up and I can't seem to find anything that shows this patent. And I was also curious as to what developments across Canada he was referring to, because I also can't find any developments with that project anywhere in Canada. Just searching, not to mean that they don't exist, but I just have those questions. The only covenant that was available for viewing at 12 p.m. today was the old one from the meeting on Wednesday. So I'm really grateful for these changes that took place with the phasing, but it doesn't answer everything. And I feel like when you make big changes like that, that perhaps the public process should be extended, because it doesn't give people enough time to review before they're able to speak to it. And those are even for council, I can't imagine. It says on ARIF's website that they boast that their new modular units are 50% faster to build and a 50% cost savings. The attainable homes in phase 1 provide two only one-bedroom homes at a price that is not set in the housing agreement. So on his website, he says 347 or something like that, but it's actually not set in the housing agreement. So nothing he's beholden to. 13 two-bedroom homes at $567,000 plus GST in the housing agreement, and 14 three-bedroom homes at $865,000 plus GST. Stage 2 provides more of the same 4 one-bedrooms, 22 bedrooms, and 22 three-bedrooms, with what looks like the ability to have some short-term rentals. After 5 years of ownership, all restrictions for the attainable part of this come off these homes. Each of these homes come with 1 parking space and 1 visitor parking space per entire building. Council has seemed to decide that this does not seem concerning to anyone. I wonder where everyone is going to park their second vehicles, where their friends and families are going to park, as the roads are strata roads and smaller than usual. And with the 3 bedrooms, there could be 2 separate owners in there, but only 1 parking spot. The potential overflow could create an issue on Monado Road and the highway, which would then become a safety issue, which would then become incumbent upon the district taxpayer to find a solution for, due to the inadequate planning of parking in this development. Not to mention that these are only attainable to those people earning 120% of the median income. The people I heard speaking in support of this development were under the impression they would have a chance at buying a home in the next couple of years. No one I have spoke with around town actually earns 120% of the median income, and this will not be within reach of them. The affordable rentals, which would give the community after entire build out 32 units of affordable rentals for a span of 20 years only, and then not anymore, at which point all restrictions end. I'm curious about this. ARIF's mentioned previously that the affordable units are tied to CMHC funding. I asked the district if they have any documentation showing that ARIF has even applied or proven eligibility. The answer I received, I quote, is, ARIF has made this statement. However, neither the zoning nor housing agreements require CMHC funding. Funding streams are subject to change, and ARIF could sell the property to another entity. So the focus of the zoning, housing agreements, and covenants is to ensure that through build-out, the development contains affordable units regardless of ownership or funding streams. Yet, in the affordable housing agreement, available at 12 p.m. today, about to be adopted after this hearing, they define qualified affordable tenant as meaning an individual who meets the eligibility criteria of the Canada Mortgage and Housing Corporation funding agreement for units constructed on the lands under the CMHC Affordable Housing Fund program. So if there is no CMHC funding agreement, then how do we define what a qualified affordable tenant is? And if ARIF can't find the subsidies for these 32 units, then what makes this happen? I just really feel that if this covenant's changed and everything in the last 2 hours, then this process should be postponed so that we could review the changes. Currently, as it stands, this developer is getting half of our remaining sewage capacity before a major upgrade's required, increased density, a rezoning that will hugely increase the value of their property. A third of the council agreed upon vacation rental growth desired for Ucluelet over the next 30 years. And assuming everything was built out, they have ownership of the rental buildings, vacation rentals, and short-term rentals in a highly desirable resort town. Likely, they will also have subsidized parking or road changes for this development. And I believe we're getting that 30-meter tree buffer along the road removed. In order to afford this, they have asked for development cost charge relief. They've asked for the town to pay to develop the dedicated trail. They have asked for limited parking requirements on this development. They have also asked to have their own building inspector, essentially asking to have someone on their payroll do their building inspections. And then at the end of 20 years, after complete build out of the community has nothing at the end, not even the affordable units, because the affordable units only last for 20 years. If they do not do a complete build out, then at the end of 5 years, the 120% of median income earners also have no more attainable housing. Our community center and skate park were built by contributions from developers of large projects that were, some of them smaller than the size of this, that were required regardless of the success of their projects to contribute to. In the past, Ucluelet also had an affordable housing committee, and 2 units were provided to the district free of charge in exchange for their increased density. This is not an uncommon format. I have never heard of giving so much for nothing in long term in return. This sets a poor precedent for future developments. I believe that this is going through. Minds have been made up, but I do ask that ARIF's committee for their affordable rentals, if that's what it is, then there should be something in there that if he's developing a committee, that they have full decision-making power independent of the developer or associates for those rental units if they ever get built. And just like a bank would not give a loan on a promise, we should not either. If they do not build out Lot 2 with the affordable rentals as promised in the next 5 years when they're needed, then maybe the consequence is that they have to give that part of the land back to the district of Ucluelet. If they are truly genuine in their intentions, this should not be a problem. If this is all about affordable housing, if they are unsure of whether this will be feasible, then maybe they should go back and propose something that's more within their means. On another note, we have a water tower project, a potential option of 50 real affordable rentals that would be owned by the district in perpetuity. It is also time sensitive.
Chantal, I think your time is up.
Okay.
Thank you for your comments.
I thought I got a 4-minute warning, no?
Yeah, I wasn't looking over at the warning. Sorry.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other speakers on Zoom?
Thank you, Mayor McEwen. We have Judy Gray who would like to speak. Judy, I will unmute your mic.
Thank you. Judy Gray, 2349 Tofino Ucluelet Highway. And I've been working with ARIF since they first came to town. I must say, after 30 years of working with various developers in the community, that they truly are a breath of fresh air. They really have thought out this entire procedure. They're going to do a fantastic job for our town. The requirements for, Chantal was mentioning about CMHC. Well, CMHC and the Affordable Housing Program, they have guidelines already set for the entire province. So whether or not they've signed an agreement with them is irrelevant because those guidelines are already set by the provincial government, by CMHC, and the arm of the provincial government that is also involved. I think that these units are extremely well thought out. I've looked at the equipment. A lot of the equipment has been stored here in Ucluelet while they were preparing their new facility in Port Alberni. I'm astounded with the quality, and everything is shiny and new, and they will be pumping out these houses. I've spoken to a number of people in the industry, developers, builders, and financiers that have shown them this project and linked them to the website, and they're all I haven't had a negative comment about it at all. And it was like, where did you find these people? Can you send them to our community? So I just want to say that you know, I've dealt with a lot of developers and sorry, Josh, I know you don't want to be called a developer, a housing provider that really is organized, that has everything together, that has incredible thought process through all of this, who really are looking to better housing for our community and other communities. They're not out to try and mess around with us and get a bunch of stuff for free. You know, they're willing to put money on the table. They are not going to profit from a lot of this project. Eventually, there will be market sales of the houses and the other units, and there'll be market rentals of the other units. And that is where ARIF will have to wait before they make profit. And I'm really happy and feel very fortunate that these folks have found us. And I hope that things proceed. Thank you.
Thanks for your comments, Judy. Could we crack some windows open, perhaps, please? Are there any other speakers on Zoom?
No one else has their hand raised, Mayor McEwen, at the moment.
Okay. And I will note that the written input on the agenda includes the late items, but have we received any unpublished correspondence about the bylaws, including any unpublished emails to communityinput@ucluelet.ca?
Yes, Mayor McEwen, we have received 2 emails that have not been published on the public hearing agenda package. The first one is from Ed Van Germelen from Saltwater Building Co. And I will read it out loud. Hello, I am writing to express my strong support for the proposed housing development at 221 Monadnock Road, which aims to add affordable homes to our community. As a resident of Ucluelet, I believe that this project represents a vital step toward addressing the pressing need for accessible, affordable housing. Rising housing costs have placed increasing pressure on working families, young professionals, seniors, and essential workers. The proposed development will not only provide stable housing options for these groups, but it will also help preserve the diversity and vitality that make our community strong. This project has the potential to increase the availability of safe, high quality, and affordable housing units, reduce displacement pressures faced by longtime residents, support economic growth by helping local employers attract and retain workers, encourage inclusive and equitable community development. I understand that change can bring questions and concerns, but with thoughtful planning and community input, this development can be a model for sustainable and inclusive growth. I respectfully urge the community to approve this proposal and to continue prioritizing solutions that address the housing crisis affecting so many in our area. Thank you for your attention to this matter and for your commitment to a more livable and inclusive community. Sincerely, Ed Van Germelen. And then the other letter that we have received is from Kelly Moore. And I will read it out loud. To Mayor and Council, I am writing in support of the proposed 221 Monadnock housing development. As a resident of Ucluelet, I am invested in the well-being of this community, and I see firsthand the urgent need for more attainable and diverse housing options. Too many people, including friends, neighbors, and essential workers, are struggling to find stable, long-term places to live. Projects like this one are absolutely critical if we want to maintain a vibrant, inclusive, and sustainable community. Housing challenges affect every part of your community, from local businesses trying to retain staff to young families looking to put down roots to elders wanting to stay in their community. The proposed development at 221 Monadnock is a step in the right direction. It will help address the real and growing housing shortage in Ucluelet, and I urge Council to support its approval. Sincerely, Kelly Moore. And that's it.
Thank you very much. Before I do a second call for speakers, does council have any questions or comments? No, seeing none. All right. This is the second call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to the bylaws? Seeing none, are there any other speakers on Zoom?
Yes, Mayor McEwen, we have Sarah Evelina that would like to speak, and I will allow Sarah to speak. Sarah, if you would like to unmute your mic.
Perfect. I think I have done so. You can hear me?
Yes,
we can hear you.
Cool. Thank you. I'm Sarah Evelina, Ucluelet resident, and I just wanted to obviously support affordable and attainable housing, as most people start with, but just add another voice that this is the first time, as Josh was presenting today, that I had heard about the investor program. And I think someone else who was in the room had named just a little bit of like a flag or a concern as that was raised, as it related to the 5-year term on those attainable homes before they go into market housing. Given that this was just a topic of great discussion on Tuesday, I was surprised it wasn't raised then. And just named, like a little concern around that. So I don't have too much more to share, but just wanted to add a second voice or maybe a third voice to a concern that hadn't been brought up before. I can't see reference to it. I feel like I've followed along pretty well here, and mostly of concern or hope for Ucluelet residents and not quite understanding what an investor program looks like for home buyers who can't attain an otherwise traditional mortgage. So that might not be exactly what we were moving into votes on today, but was relevant as it was the first time that we had heard something about that presented in council chambers. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you, Sarah. Are there any other speakers on Zoom?
At the moment, there are no other speakers on Zoom, Mayor McEwen.
And do we have any speakers calling in?
We do not have any speakers calling in.
And have we received any additional written public input to communityinput@ucluelet.ca?
Through the chair, we have not received any more input at community input. Thank you.
Okay, so now will be the third and final call for speakers. Are there any members of the public attending in person who wish to speak to the bylaws?
Mayor, just as a reminder, we were going to keep this public hearing open until 4 o'clock.
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, it is 3:23 right now. No one in person. Are there any other speakers on Zoom?
Yes, we do have one speaker on Zoom. Todd Evelina, I will allow you to talk.
Hey folks, y'all hear me in there? We're just juggling a baby on this end, so
Yep, we hear you.
Your patience. All right, Todd Evelina, Ucluelet resident. I'm in support of this project. I have worked side by side one of the applicants for a while here in a volunteer capacity, and appreciate what they're bringing to this proposal. My concern with a lot of development proposals comes down to what changes as the process goes on. And so I'd flag the increase in the number of STRs from 29 to 46. To me, that number kind of goes back to what I saw in previous council with Mark, Marilyn, Sean, and Jennifer talking about the maximum allowable increase of STRs that the district has agreed to. And while I want to believe that that is a fair exchange, the increase at this stage of the process, does generate more revenue for the project, but seems to go against what the district has already agreed to in terms of controlled growth with short-term rentals. And the logic that continues to be put forward with that is that it's a mortgage helper. And I'd just like to raise the concern again that a mortgage helper doesn't help the majority of folks, especially the folks who can't afford those higher priced multi-bedroom units. I would love to see this development and other developments look at the ability to create 1 and 2 bedroom units with these extra rooms instead of adding more short-term rentals. Because if the district were amicable to increasing the density instead of adding STRs to existing numbers that are in this proposal, that might be helpful to improve the housing situation that we're currently in. And specifically related to the OCP amendment, as a separate point, I'm curious if the district has received numbers that were redacted about the valuation of these different sites. Because if you look at the overall plan of the site, the attainable homes have been moved from what were ocean facing lots behind the homes on the other side. And I understand that it's higher ground and it does, help move this project forward. But my curiosity is if in enabling these STRs, we've done a swap that actually pushes all of the affordable rentals and the attainable homes to the back of the lot where we sell oceanfront properties as market rate homes, which wasn't originally in the proposal. So I think generally this is a good proposal. I think there are a lot of late changes that are in here, and I share the same concern as Chantel. I'm an expert in patents, and I've looked, and I don't see any folks from ARIF on patents related to this. So I'd love if that were publicly disclosed in the package, as well as referencing the external grants that have been secured from provincial and federal partners, and which other cities or jurisdictions have expressed interest in the IGV Nexus unit, because it would be great to know what support there is on the island or throughout BC or Canada that support the build out of these. So thank you for your time. Yeah.
Thanks for your comments, Todd. Do we have any other speakers on Zoom?
We don't have any other speakers on Zoom, Mayor McEwen.
And are there any speakers calling in?
No speakers calling in either, thank you.
And have we received any new emails about the bylaws to communityinput@ucluelet.ca?
We have not, thank you.
All right, so our CAO is wishing to keep the meeting open until 4 to allow more public input.
Thank you, Mayor. I know it's not the best practice, but we had advertised to the community that we were keep this open till 4. So I know there'll be a lot of maybe pauses between now and 4 o'clock, but we did indicate that we keep it open for those who couldn't make it here within the earlier hour.
Okay. I haven't seen any new people walk into the room, so there's probably nobody in the audience that's wanting to speak, but we can keep Zoom and the phone line open and community input open. Normally, this would be the point where I adjourn this meeting.
That's correct, Mayor. Just given what we've tried to make sure people have an opportunity to speak on it, we mentioned we keep it open till 4 o'clock.
Okay.
So.
Jody, did you wish to speak?
Yes, please. I thought I'd just, I know it's not question and answer, but I thought I'd just share some information. So our patent, which is patent pending, they do take a number of years to be formalised, but it is patent pending. It's under IGV housing. So for those people that are frantically searching, don't search under ERIF. And the patent application serial number is 3227017. I'll say that again, 3227017. Just if anyone wants to search that and have a look. Thank you.
Thank you. Let me check with Ed.
Mayor McEwen, we do have someone with their hand raised on Zoom.
Great.
Chantal, I will unmute your mic.
Sorry, I'm Chantal, 1657 Bay Street. I know this isn't a question and answer period. Speaking to Jody with the patent number, I just looked it up again. Maybe she can say where that can be found, because I still don't find that patent number with IGB housing. I find a few other things, but not that one. So maybe she can state where, on what website or where we can actually find that patent, because it's not in the patent searching site. Thanks.
Could it be because it's pending?
No.
Do you want to just tell her that at the microphone?
Chantal or anyone else, if you send me an email, we will give you the link to where to find that patent, and we can also perhaps pop it on our IGV housing website so it's easily accessible.
Great, thanks, Jody.
Okay, great. Hello? Oh, great. Lindsay Black, 1049 Helen Road. Like to talk. I'm a bit trepidatious about it, being married to a counselor, but I would like to say I'm my own entity. I do have my own opinions as an individual. And I know that some people have written in before claiming that it's a conflict of interest, but I'd like to state that I don't think that it is. I do support this initiative, this project, based on a number of different things. I've been in real estate for over 17 years now, in sales, appraisal, and financing. The project is located in a major transportation area, which allows for accessibility. It's not in the middle of the town, being, a fairly large development. We talk about affordability. We talk about DCCs and CACs. We talk about, those costs, DCCs, CACs, if they're charged to the developer, they're going to be charged back to the consumer. So if we want to be building affordable housing, how is that going to be done? It has to be subsidized by some way. Now, the price point of these units, I think, seem very reasonable. They're going to be warranted because they have to be 2510. What you see on the market right now in that price point are older homes. They don't have any warranty. They're going to need significant maintenance and upkeep. And I think that this is allowing to have a wide and diverse housing mix that the community can really be benefiting by. The price point, if you're taking a $450,000 mortgage, let's say, you might be paying $2,200 a month for that. For two people to be paying that, to be living in a brand new space in a lovely area, I think that seems reasonable myself. And I think that when you look at rental rates right now at market in the area, it would be somewhat similar. But again, you're not in a new home. You're in an older home with vinyl siding that needs upkeep, that may have mold and other issues. Other than that, that's all I've got to say. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Lindsay. And what's wrong with vinyl siding?
It wouldn't be my preference.
Okay, we'll call a 5-minute recess at 3:43. Okay, we'll cancel the recess now that we have quorum back again.
Mayor McEwen, we have received an email at community input.
Okay, would you like to read it?
Yes, of course. So it is from Dan Vidova. Oh, apologies. It's actually not related to anything on the public hearing today. I will not be reading it. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, I think so. Can I think about that for 4 minutes? Mm. Yeah. Mary, if we could take the right to 4 would be great, and then we could take start the open just a little bit later.
Mayor McEwen, it is 4 p.m. if you'd like to adjourn.
All right, I now declare the public hearing for District of Ucluelet Official Community Plan Amendment Bylaw number 1366, 2024, and the District of Ucluelet Zoning Amendment Bylaw number 1367, 2024, closed at 4 o'clock. Thank you for